Procedures and functions. In programming, you have procedures and functions, also known as subroutines. Procedures and functions allow you to divide your program into smaller blocks of code, where you can work on each block of code separately and makes calls to the procedure or function wherever they are needed in your program. Using procedures and functions in your code makes your code readable. The code is also reusable, which saves time. The difference between a procedure and a function is that when you call a procedure in your program, its code is executed, then ends or continues with the rest of the program. However, when you call a function, the code is executed, then returns a value to the main program. The program either continues or ends. In this video, we will be looking at procedures. In my next video, we'll be looking at functions. To define a procedure in Python, we use the keyword def. Then we give our procedure a name. So in this case, I'm going to create a menu. So I'm going to create my procedure name is going to be called menu. Then followed by an open brackets, close brackets, and then a colon. Then what we do now is write the code for the procedure. So in this case, it's a menu. So I'm going to print a menu to the screen. Okay, so I'm going to put print. And this is going to be a main menu. I'm just going to give it some underlines. Okay, so this is going to be a main menu for a student program. So the first option in this main menu will be to add a student record. So I'm going to do option 1 will be to add student record. Option 2 will be to delete student record. Option 3 to modify or update. So I'm going to modify student record, and then the last one is going to be an option to exit the menu. Okay, so we're going to have to get a user input here, so the user can either select 1 to add student record, 2 to delete student record, 3 to modify, or 4 to exit. I'm going to now create a variable called choice to get the user's input. So I'm going to say choice equals input please make a selection. And then I'll just let the user know what selections are available. Okay, so what this program does, it creates a function called menu. It prints a main menu to the screen. The main menu consists of 4 options. 1 to add student record, 2 to delete student record, 3 to modify student record, and 4 for exit. What happens as well, we've created a variable called choice, which accepts the user's input, and then program runs like that. If we were to write this program, run this program as it is, it will run, but you will see no output. So if I save it, file, save, then I run it. Okay, nothing happens. In order for your function, your procedure to work, you need to say menu, open brackets, close brackets. So you have to call the procedure name. So if we save that now and run, you can see that. And then we have 4 options. At the moment, we haven't written any other code, so nothing actually will happen in the program. But we've given the user 4 options. That's a simple procedure showing how to create a main menu for a program. So let's go on to create a program, an actual program with several procedures. So we're going to create ourselves a calculator program. First of all, we're going to define our procedure. So we have a procedure and we've called it calc. And the first thing this procedure is going to do is print to the screen a menu that allows the user to select from 5 different options: 1 for addition, 2 for subtraction, 3 for multiplications, 4 for division, and 5 for exit. So we've created ourselves a variable called options, which stores the user's input. Part of our other procedures, that when the user selects 1 for additions, it's going to call a procedure that's going to add, and as part of that program, what's going to happen, it's going to ask the user for 2 numbers, and once the user enters those numbers, it's going to add those 2 numbers together and print them to the screen. Okay, so let's create the procedures now. Before creating the procedures, we have to actually create ourselves some selection to decide on what option the user wants to do. So if option equals 1, so what we've done, we've created our variable here, and we said if option here, so if option, whatever's stored in as the user responding option, if it is equals 1, then we call the add procedure. Else if is elif option equals 2, we'll call the sub for subtraction procedure, and so on and so forth. So this is just our selection that enabled us to decide what option or what procedure the user is actually, the program is actually going to call. So what also happens if the user doesn't select 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, okay, what will happen, the program will say invalid option, please select 1, 2, 3, or 5, and then it will go and print the main menu again. Let's run our program and see what happens so far. So in order to run our program, we have to call the procedure's name. So we call the procedure, and then we save, and then we'll run our program. Okay, so you can see what appears on the screen is the main menu for the calculator program. The only thing that's going to work at the moment is option 5. The other procedures haven't been written yet, so nothing will happen there. So let's select 5. So we select 5, it should say goodbye. Okay. So now let's go and write the other procedures: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay. So let's create our first procedure for addition. So we define our procedure, def, and we're going to call our procedure name add. And then what we're going to do is print a title just to inform the user that this section is for addition. Then we're going to ask the user to input 2 numbers. So the first one's num1, and we've got to say it's an integer, so equals int. Okay, input, please enter your first number. Okay, so you need to remember you have 2 brackets, so you need to close 2 brackets. Then the second one, we're going to get another input from the user, so number 2 equals int for integer, input, please enter your second number. Okay, so don't forget the speech marks at the beginning. Then what we're going to do, we're going to create a variable that stores the results of num1 plus num2. So we're going to call that variable answer equals num1 plus num2. Then we're going to print the results to the screen. Okay, so I'm going to say print num1. Okay, and we're just going to say, because it's equation, we'll just do it in the form of equation, equals plus num2. Okay, and then we're going to say answer. What this procedure does is it prints the title addition to the screen. It asks the user for two numbers, num1 then num2. It stored the results of num1 plus num2 in a variable called answer. It prints whatever the user inputs as num1 and prints whatever the user says as num2 here, and it prints the result of answer in this variable here and prints it to the screen. So let's run this program and see what happens. So we have to call the function calc first before it actually can run. We don't have to call add, because add is called if we select option 1. So if we go save, run. So I'm going to call 1 for addition, and my first number I can say 34. My second number I can say 32, and it says obviously 34 plus 32 equals 66. So let's go and write our other procedures. Our second procedure we're going to write is subtraction. What we could do is just copy this procedure and change the procedure name. So we're going to call this procedure sub, like we've said here. So we define it as sub, and then we'll change the title to subtraction. And then we'll just change the sign here to a minus, and we'll change the sign here also to minus. So we can do that for all our other functions as well. So here we've called it multiply. So we'll make sure this function is exactly the same name here, multiply. And then what we do here, we change it here. We can just change it to multiplication. Okay, and then we'll just change the sign to a star, because in programming, when we do multiplication, it's a star. And then the final one we're going to do is going to be for division. So we'll just highlight this again and copy it. And we've called it division here, so we'll call it division here as well. Okay, and we just obviously change our titles. And we'll just change our signs. That should be so. We'll just change the sign here. Division. Okay, so we've got our four functions now: addition, subtraction, just make that a capital S, multiplication, to make sure the signs are minus for minus, multiplication, which multiplies, division for division. We're going to call our main procedure, which is calc. Okay, just make sure all the signs are correct. So we'll go File, Save, and then Run Module. So let's choose 2 for subtraction. 45 minus 5. Okay, let's choose another option. Let's choose option 3. Okay, let's choose option 4. Okay. Okay. And then obviously we've done 5 for exit, but we'll just run it again just to see how it runs. 5, goodbye. Okay, so we've done 5 for exit. What we're going to do is improve this program to allow the user to be able to give the user an option to whether or not they want to use the calculator again, instead of it just stopping just after we've done an addition or a subtraction. It will allow the user to say if they want to do it again. If they don't want to do it again, then the program will end. Okay, so let's add that procedure to our program. We're going to create a procedure that's going to allow the user to be able to use the calculator again. So we're going to define our function and give it a function name called again. So we'll give it a variable name to hold the user's response. So we'll just call this variable opt equals input. So you'll ask them, do you want to use the calculator again? Do you to use the calculator again? Okay, then we'll give them an option to either say yes or no. Then what we're going to do, because the user might enter in a capital letter or a lowercase letter, we only want to receive the user response in lowercase. So what we're going to do is force the user's input to be lowercase. So whether they've entered lowercase or uppercase, it'll always just be looking for lowercase when we're doing our selection statement later on. So we're going to create another variable called choice and set that variable to lowercase. So we've got our variable to opt, okay, and we're going to use the lower function just to make sure that our user's response is actually lowercase. So we're now going to say if choice equals yes, we want to obviously run the calculator procedure. Else if or elif choice equals no, we want our program to print goodbye. Goodbye, and we can say thank you for using our calculator program. Else, if the user response is not Y or N, we will say invalid choice, please re-enter yes or no. So we go else, and we're going to say print invalid speech marks, invalid choice, please please re-enter Y or N. And then what we're going to do is call the procedure again until the user enters a valid response. Okay, so what this procedure does is we've given a procedure name called again. We've given it a variable called opt for option. So we've said we've asked the user, do you want to use the calculator again? We've asked them to select yes or no. And then what we've said to them is what we've done here. So whether they've written a uppercase Y for yes or a lowercase or an uppercase N for no, what will happen, the program will just resolve it to make sure that it's just a lowercase. So if choice equal, when it's done a comparison, is Y for yes, it runs the calculator program procedure. If the choice is no, then the program will say, goodbye, thank you for using our calculator program. Else, if the response is not Y or N, it will say, invalid choice, please re-enter yes or no. What we're going to do, we're going to have this procedure at the end of our other procedures. So we're going to have here, at the end of here, we'll say, we'll run the procedure again here. So it will give the user an option. So you can see how using procedures are very reusable and how we don't have to write so much code. Okay, so what we've done here, we'll also have it in the add function. So we're calling our again procedure within our other functions here to enable the user to use the calculator again if they so wish. So let's save our program and let's run it. Okay, so if we do 1 for addition, so we go 2 and just say 4, and it asks us, do we want to run again? So we can say yes, and then it displays the menu again, and we can choose 2, and then we can say 4, 2, and then I can say no, I don't want to actually run it again. Then goodbye, thank you for using our calculator program. Let's create another calculator program using less code that is going to be more efficient. We can make our calculator program more efficient by removing some of the code. What we could do is ask the user to enter their 2 numbers at the same time they are making their menu selection. So when we've asked them option input, what operation would you like to do? After that, what we could do is ask the user to enter num1 and number 2. So therefore we don't have to keep repeating it within each of the other procedures. What we could do as well is actually get rid of these procedures and then then what we could do is compute the equations within the selection statement. So we can get rid of this add here, and then what we could do here, we can just go add this statement within our selection statement. Okay, everything within the if statement should be indented. So what we could do here is just get rid of all this code at the bottom here. Just delete. We can leave the again statement because we obviously would like to be able to ask the user if they want to run the program again. So I'm going to get rid of all of these procedures here, and then I'm just going to have these statements to actually calculate our equations within here. So this 2 is for subtraction, so I'm just going to change that to a minus. Three is for multiplication, so I'm going to change this to a star. 4 is for division. Okay, so what we're going to do as well is add our again function, so therefore we can call our again function. So we'll call our again function outside of our select statement. Okay, so what this program does, just like the other program, it prints to the screen the menu for the calculator program. What it does, it asks the user what operation they would like to do. It asks the user to enter the first number and second number. It stores the first number in a variable called num1. It stores the second number in the variable called num2. It does a selection statement depending on what the user inputs as their option. If they put option 1 for addition, the program will add. Option 2 for subtraction, the program will subtract, and so on and so forth. And then at the end of the statement, once everything's, whether they did addition, it will ask them, do they want to obviously run the calculator program again. So what we have to do here is call the function cal and then run our program. Ensure that all your code within the selection is aligned. Let's save our program and run it. So let's select 1 for addition. Do you want to use a calculator again? Let's say yes. Let's do 4 for division. Okay, and let's say a big capital no. Okay, so you can see that we have made our program more efficient by removing all the procedures for the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and we've placed the calculations for those operations within our selection statement. We've also only called the again function once, and that's within our calculator program. In our next video, we will create procedures by using parameter parsing. Thank you for watching.